Hello everyone and welcome to A Slice of My Life. This video is about the new Zirkuti or Zirkuti, ZKT. I don't even know how I should officially pronounce it, but it's the ZKT buttons by the OneStopFidget official. Okay, before I get into it, let me just show you what this button set comes with. First of all, it comes with a set of beautifully flamed zirconium buttons, and you guys can see it's got a very deep lip. Now these unfortunately are not dedicated male and female buttons. They are held in together by a set screw, and when you lock them in together, they are actually meant to fit spinners that are press fit style, not the ones with the bearing retention system or the core. Okay, so these are press fit style buttons. Now I'm gonna say this, and I know it's weird because you're supposed to put the Mokuti or the Timascus inlay, but this actually feels really comfortable. It's not a dish, it's just flat, but that tall lip gives you quite a lot of grip out here. I would say it's a pretty interesting feel because there are no other buttons with such a tall lip like that. I never felt this before, and it's quite interesting. Next up, what you're gonna get is a set of Mokuti or Timascus inlays. Now you guys can see these are not flamed, but you can tell by the beautiful pattern that they are Timascus. And I'm gonna always alternate between Timascus and Mokuti because it might be just the way I say it at the point of time, so I do apologize, but they do mean the same thing, okay? They do mean the same thing. So this is the pattern here, and of course they come in different sizes. This one is a 22mm wide version, so the inlays will sit in right there. Now, when Asire initially reached out to me and said that he wanted to send me these buttons for review, he asked me if I wanted the inlays to be pre-flamed, that means flamed by him, or do I want to flame it myself? And I thought this would be kind of a pretty cool opportunity to record the whole process down because I've never handled Mokuti before, and I've seen flamed Mokuti and those look really awesome. So I thought it'll be interesting as an experiment for my first time, and while doing that, get it down on camera and share with you guys how I go about doing my flaming work. I'm not fantastic at flaming metals, but I have had my fair share of experience, and also to kind of record down where it started from and how it ends up. So here are the items that I use when I'm flaming metals, and I just want to share them with you guys and explain to you why I have these items. First of all is a pair of latex gloves. Now this is really important because you don't want the oils from your fingers to get onto the object that you are flaming, because these oils will affect the end result. So make sure that you get a pair of latex gloves or some equivalent and keep them on all the time, especially when you're handling the item that you're flaming, and in this case it'll be the Timascus inlays. Next up is a small block of wood. This is just like a really cheap piece of wood that I got from Daiso for like $2. It's just scrap wood that I don't mind if it gets damaged or if it gets trashed. That's the whole point of it. And then a pair of pliers. Now these needle nose pliers I actually use to grab onto the Mokuti when I'm trying to flip it over when I'm doing flaming, because I don't want to burn myself. But this one is going to act as a base so I can rest the item over here. I usually do that to buttons or the spinner bodies, where I actually balance this plier right here like that. I have the spinner right here, and then I start flaming it so that the wood helps to elevate this off the ground, so I actually have some air going underneath, and at the same time it's easier for me to just hold it like that and then angle it when I want to see the light. So I just do that, and then I'll pinch it like that and flip it over. Yeah, you get what I mean when you actually see me doing the whole thing. Next, of course, you're gonna need one of these mini torches, and this one is actually powered by normal lighter fluid, and it looks like this. It's a really cheap micro torch, and you should be able to get this easily at any hardware store. Next, you're gonna need an adhesive of some sort. I use Goop or Loctite depending on the situation. This is a green kind of Loctite, and I use this mainly for bearings when I'm actually installing bearings into a press fit or slip fit spinner. I use this. I actually have blue Loctite, but that's more of a thread locker than anything else, so this is not the right application to use thread locker. On top of that, I also have Goop, and Goop, in my opinion, is a very good adhesive. Yes, it takes a really long time to cure, but it is easily removable. That's the best part about Goop. So if I were to use Goop on this, and I probably would, I would just put a dot right in the middle. Then I will press the inlay in once I'm done with flaming the inlay. You guys could use other things, like you could use super glue, you could use contact glue, you could use whatever you want, but just know that the inlay will sit in and you need some kind of adhesive to keep it there. Another method is for you to just simply use double-sided tape. Next, I have a little plastic cup. It could be a little plastic saucer or a little dish, it doesn't really matter, but you want this so that you could put some acetone in it. And if you're in the country where you don't have access to pure acetone, then just get some nail polish remover. We'll get the ones that actually say acetone on it. So if you look at the ingredients, it says acetone right here. So this contains acetone that is good enough for you to clean down your item. First of all, I'm going to clean this down with acetone, and then I'm going to wash it off with warm water and follow that up with Windex, or an equivalent to Windex, and I'm using Magic Clean. Basically, it's a glass cleaner, it's blue in color, and this will help to remove all the different oils on it. So the reason why I use acetone is because I want to get rid of any kind of, say for example, adhesives that are left over or any kind of dirt on it, and then I'm gonna wash that off and then use this Windex equivalent and clean all the grease and all that oils off, then rinse it off with warm water again. Now take note that by the time you start doing this cleaning, make sure that you're already having your latex gloves on, because it will kind of defeat the point if you're doing this cleaning and you still have oils from your finger going onto the item itself. So make sure you have your gloves. So that's basically all the things that I use. Now I'm going to clean this up, and I know you guys don't need me to show you how I clean it up. It's really simple. Just pour a little bit in here and then just soak the items inside, then wash them off with warm water. I will cut to the next part where I'm going to begin the flaming process. So you guys are in for a treat. Let's just see how this thing goes, and I'm really excited about it. I really am. It's my first time handling Mokuti, and I've seen some really beautifully flamed Mokuti pieces. I cannot wait to try it out. I am back, guys, and I have already adhered the inlays into the buttons, and you can see that I put them on a spinner, and it is none other than the very amazing Atrium spinner by Unquiet Hands. But it's not about the spinner, it is about the ZKT buttons. Now have a look. See how I tried to get that whole rainbow spectrum of all the colors? So during the flaming part, I actually wrote in the video, the different color spectrum. Now it's not exact, so just like I mentioned there, please go Google it if you're looking for the exact kind of color chart, because I'm no expert, and this is my first time flaming Mokuti. And I really love the way it turned out. Now the thing that you can do with Mokuti is try and get a very even flame color. Now generally for me, when I'm flaming my spinners, and most of my spinners are in stainless steel, I generally try and flame it to a very even color, whether the whole thing is just blurple or just maybe like a dark brownish bronzish kind of color. But for this case in Mokuti, because of the different layers, I wanted a very rainbow kind of thing. I wanted to get as many colors as possible instead of just going for a very even flame color. Now if you want to do it evenly, yes, there's many methods. How I usually get an even flame is that I will just keep on rotating the flame around the button instead, so I work from outside in instead of inside out. And there's one more thing that I wasn't able to mention in the video, and that is when you are doing flaming, once you are done and you've reached close to the desired color that you want, you're gonna have to let it sit for a little while. It's gonna bake for a little bit. So there's two ways you could do that. Either you hit the color you want exactly and then you quickly quench it in like water or some kind of a cold solution. For example, some people use oils. Or you could just almost hit the color you want and then set it aside and let this thing just bake. And once the heat dissipates out, it will eventually reach a color that is close or maybe after the color that you actually have on the metal itself. So it's really important for you to constantly check on the colors that is being shown on the item at that point of time when you're doing flaming. Make sure you take note of that. So yes, this is the first side, guys. This just turned out way better than I expected. And you guys saw the underside. The underside just looks weird. Now the thing is, if you screw up, okay, if you screw up, all you gotta do is just polish this right off. Polish the anodization layer or the oxidization layer. I think it's oxidization, that's the right word. Just polish it off with like some kind of a metal polisher. Clean that off, do the whole cleaning process and then reflame it. That's how you're gonna redo everything, okay? And one more thing you gotta take note of when you have heat treated metals is that the oils from our fingers will dull the colors over time. As we handle them, all these will kind of muddy up the colors and make them dull. Now in order to get rid of those oils, just get some Windex and wipe it right off and it should be as good as new. Now over time, and I'm talking about a longer period of time, you're definitely going to wear out the oxidization layer. Now when you do that, then you got no choice, just polish it all off and reflame everything. So this is one side of the button and this is the other side. Now on this side is more purple and blues and a lot of yellows and pinks. You can see that purples, blues, yellows, pinks. But on the original side that I was showing you guys, this is closer to kind of what I wanted. I've got some blues going on here, a little bit of white in the corner. I got some yellows, some pinks, some purples, and some green. And green is the color that I really love. Awesome. Now here's a little treat for you guys. I've got another set of buttons. That's right. And this time, these set of buttons I actually put on a mini sanitarium. Or is it an asylum? I always get the names mixed up, guys. I'm sorry. This is a Full Throttle Originals mini asylum. I believe it is the asylum. The sanitarium should be the tri version. But yes, I got this off the secondary market, and of course I put in my brass spacer beads. Now it's got a nick here. And that was not done by the seller, well, at least that's what he told me. But anyway, let's look at the buttons. These buttons here are going from a purple on the sides, resulting in a blue and white stripe down the middle. So kind of like tiger stripe or zebra stripe. And I dig that. I really like this. And then on this side, it is the rainbow thing. I got some greens up here, some purple, some pinks, some yellows and blues, and some whites at the bottom. And there's a difference between these two set of buttons. This one here on the Atrium is a 22mm wide button, and the one here on the mini asylum is a 23mm wide button. So yes, they are available in different widths. You gotta take note of what widths you're gonna get because not all spinners are compatible with all widths. Like for example, I cannot use the 23mm one on the Atrium simply because of that recessed edge in there. And also you guys are probably wondering, hey wait, the Atrium is a spinner featuring the bearing retention system. How did you fit these buttons on if they were meant for press fit spinners? Well, that's really simple. I actually have some O-rings there. And these O-rings are courtesy of Fidget HQ. I got these O-rings when I actually ordered the Damascus Steel Zentri Nanos, and they came with a special version of the Kong buttons, the adjustable height Kong buttons. And well, Raja was kind enough to send me an extra set of O-rings because he was worried about rust setting into the Damascus steel during shipping, so he sent me an extra set of O-rings just in case, and I decided to try them out here in this application, and lo and behold, it works. Now, the reason why I had to do that, okay, is very simple. Now I'm going to talk about feedback regarding these buttons, and I've already shared these feedback with Asire of the OneStopFidget official. Now first of all, these buttons were supposed to be made for press fit spinners. However, it is not 100% compatible with all press fit spinners. I realized that they would not work on the Sonder, and the reason why is because the shoulders underneath the buttons are pretty shallow compared to other buttons. And I'm talking about these shoulders right here, that inner lip right there. Most other buttons have a lip that is slightly higher, like slightly by about like what, 0.5 millimeter. Just a little bit more would be more than enough. So it just did not work on the Sonder, and I was a little bit disappointed. And I thought about it and I was like, wait, I can't use it on all press fit spinners. So that would also mean, okay, by extension, that this set screw is gonna be a little bit too short. Even though if I have a set of washers or some spacers and I want to use these buttons on a spinner that is not a press fit style, like for example a vertical press like this, for example, even if I have the right washers, the set screw would not be long enough for me to actually have the buttons gripping onto the set screw. It wouldn't bite. So there was no way for me to tighten it down. And that was the case right here. Now I have washers from a few sources, and I'm talking about Spinnetic Spinners. Yes, I have a few Unifit buttons, so I have enough washers to go around. I also have washers that I got when I bought buttons from Nguyen Kang. You guys remember, he's made all those very awesome custom buttons. And of course, I got washers from the Silurium Prime. You guys know that the Silurium Prime uses washers because the shoulders were too short. So that is exactly what happened here. The shoulders a little bit too short. So I tried out all the different washers, and unfortunately, it also wasn't 100% compatibility with all bearing retention system spinners. So for this particular case, I got lucky, I guess. I lucked out out. And instead of using washers, I used these O-rings. And you guys know O-rings are kind of like squishy, they are made of rubber. So I'm able to kind of squeeze them down to a certain point, but the only problem is that I have to find the exact sweet spot where it's not too loose to the point that the buttons don't actually bite onto each other because of the set screw, but also not too tight to the point that it's biting onto the spinner frame or it scrapes the spinner body when I torque it around. That's one of the main gripes that I had about these buttons. Now the next one is more of a comfort kind of thing. Now so far in my journey with spinners, I have handled quite a lot of different style of buttons, and I of course have handled other buttons that are inlay style. I'm just gonna call it the inlay style buttons. Now these, they were cool because as you actually sent them to me so I could DIY them, so I tried it out in 3 different heights. Now this one on the 22mm, this is the original height, or I should say the original depth. Now this has nothing inside at the base of the button itself, so this is just the inlay sitting as far in as possible into the button. And this has got like a 1 to 1.5mm tall lip. Now for this one over here, what I did was I got some really flat washers, and these washers are like, I'm talking about like minuscule washers, and I don't have them anymore because I used all 6 of them inside there. So I put 3 washers on each side. I glued them down in a triangular shape, then I glued the inlay down. Now I did that because I wanted to raise the lip. As you can see, the lip here on the 23mm button is not as tall as the lip on the 22mm button. You guys can see that, right? I've technically reduced about ½ a millimeter's height. Now the last one that I tried and didn't work out, so that's why I'm not showing it to you guys, was I initially tried to use some 3M double-sided tape, you know, those kind with the foam in the middle. I used that as an adhesive instead, and I pressed the inlay in, and that resulted in a flush finish. And because it was flush, it looked really good, but it was just way too slippery. It offered no grip at all. So I am gonna say that by raising the height, I've made this a lot more comfortable than this. Now this actually feels good, and I know I mentioned in the first part of the video that just the buttons alone without the inlays, they do feel pretty good. But where I failed there is that I did not use those buttons without the inlays over a long period of time. Now I have done so with these, with the stock version or the stock form it's supposed to be in. And I'm gonna tell you that initially it feels good. Initially it feels good. If you put it on a lighter spinner, it's not going to be much of a problem because you don't actually have to put a lot of pressure onto the buttons when you're actually handling it. But in the case of, say for example, something heavier like this, full stainless steel atrium spinner, then you're going to put more pressure here. And as you grip down onto that right there, I don't really believe it matters whether or not you're using a flat grip or a pinch grip. You'll actually feel the lip biting into your fingers over time, and then that would result in this mark and this mark. And that can be quite uncomfortable after a little while. At first it's alright, I'm gonna say at first it's alright, but like after an hour or 2 in, you start to feel it and it starts to bother you. At least it started to bother me, and I didn't really like it as much. Now for this though, I won't say that it does not bite, but it definitely bites a lot less than this. So that is the biggest gripe I have to say about this particular button. Now these buttons, they look beautiful. There's no denying the beauty of combining the black, that beautiful chrome black of zirconium with Timascus or Mokuti inlays. Just look at that. This is a beautiful combination, and there is no way to deny how exquisite this thing looks. However, when I thought about it, I was like, there has to be a way to make these buttons a bit more comfortable. And so what I did was to dig up all buttons that I had. The first inlay button that I ever had was the Hook X button with the mother of pearl inlay. Yes guys, I'm a sucker for the mother of pearl styles because it looks so beautiful. Look at that range of colors. But yeah, the Hook X buttons by Neospin. Yes, I don't think you're able to get them anymore. Something has happened so far, and well, Bo is just not responding to people. But this was available during a time when spinner makers were just starting to explore wider buttons, and these are like what, 22mm wide buttons, I believe. But they had knurlings on the side, and if not for the knurlings, I think this would be used by me a lot more. Now these are actually made for spinners with the bearing retention system, so if you use it on a press fit spinner, it's going to stick up quite far, quite tall away from the spinner frame. But you know, the main gripe is that these knurls just start to bite into your finger if you're doing a lot of preloaded flicks or forward flicks like that. It still looks like a great button to me, and that's why I'm keeping it. I'm never gonna let this go because you're not able to get it anymore, and these inlays are just awesome. Why it's more comfortable than this is precisely because these lips are so thick here. They are very generous with the lip, and there is a nice ridge on the inside. You can see it's an angled ridge. Now that gives a lot of comfort when you're actually holding it. I'm not talking about the flicking finger, I'm just talking about holding it, okay? The only thing that has to be sacrificed is the actual size of the inlay. Now, if you consider this and this, now you can see the difference, right? It's a huge difference. This is like really small. This is actually way smaller than I thought. I thought that it would be a lot wider, but I could see why this has to be done. And these inlays were actually purchased separately from the Neospin store. They would sell you the buttons and then they would sell you the inlays. There was also an option for them to actually install them for you, but when you're talking about mother of pearl, you get 2 different sides to each inlay. So I wanted to see all the different sides first before I choose which side I wanted up. You know what I mean? Yeah, so this is the Hook X buttons, and this is one of the reasons why these buttons feel more comfortable than the ZKT buttons by the One Stop Fidget Official. Now hold on. I also have this, and you guys have constantly seen this in every other video that I've done so far. I have put on the Mun's Studio inlay buttons, and these are the Sea Snail Shell inlay buttons, and they do remind me of Mother of Pearl, but they are a lot more vibrant in terms of the greenish and bluish hues. And yes, these are very beautifully made buttons as well. Now these buttons feel more like stubby buttons where the lip is pretty generous. It is a thicker lip compared to this, and at the same time you could tell that the top lip of the button has been polished because it is so reflective. See that? But on the sides it's not as reflective because these actually still have the machining marks on here. So this has been hand polished, and I believe that because of that hand polishing, the edges here on the outside and inside of the lip are slightly rounded, and that makes it a lot more comfortable. Of course, these inlays sit quite high. They are not exactly flushed, but they still do have some kind of a recess in there, and this feels more comfortable than this, unfortunately. And this one, just like the ZKT buttons, are actually made for spinners with a press fit retention system, not the bearing retention system with the screw cap down, the vertical press style. But in terms of the variations and offerings, this has a lot more customization options, you know what I mean? Because you got Zirconium and you got Timascus. I mean, it's a combination of 2 exotics, you know what I'm trying to say? But this one is stainless steel, and it is Sea Snail Shell. Not as prime and premium as this, but still premium enough that it looks so good for me to put onto my stubby. So that is the thing that I wanted to share with Asire, how these buttons can be improved. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think they're bad buttons, and I'm not saying that because Asire was kind enough to sponsor these to me. I took the time to make this video because, you know, I wanted to share with you guys how I actually do my flaming, how I go about flaming my stuff, my whole setup and all the tools that I use. And they look good on almost every spinner that I put them on, that I can put them on, because these are not compatible with all of my spinners. But I really wanted to share that end result with you guys, and also to give you guys the feedback that I have on these buttons. So the next, I guess, maybe I wish the One Stop Fidget Official could explore providing their customers with 2 different lengths of the set screw, one for press fit style and one for the bearing retention vertical press style. Also some washers that could fit, maybe to make the button shoulders a little bit taller so that you don't need to use washers if you want to use it on every single press fit style spinner. And then maybe consider making the base a little bit taller so that the inlays will sit a little bit higher, or maybe make the lip a little bit wider, or bevel it somehow, or give it some kind of a rounding, something like that. So those are my main feedback, not just to Asire but also to you guys, because I've already told all of this to Asire in private. You guys know how I do. At the end of the day, these are undeniably beautiful buttons. There's no way you can deny it, no way. And the fact that I got them not flamed and I was able to flame them on my own, now I feel like these guys have an even bigger sense of belonging. It's like, it really feels like they are mine. I took the time to actually flame them to get these colors that I wanted, and I am so happy with it. And that's it, everyone. I just wanted to share all of this with you guys, and of course links in the video description down below. The One Stop Fidget Official, once again a huge shout out to Asire aka AJ for sending these over to me. Not just one but two sets of buttons. Well, there were quite some ups and downs here and there. At first I got buttons with the wrong inlays, and then later on I got the right buttons and the right inlay, but I didn't have enough set screws, so it's just really up and down. I wish I was able to make this video a bit earlier, but well, better late than never. Really, I just want to showcase these buttons to you guys. Have you seen them spinning? Look at that. It's just that rainbow thing. That's so beautiful. I'm gonna spin this one really slow, look. Whoa. I really dig it. I like it so much. I don't even know what the... Oh, wait a minute, guys. Skingasm right there. I don't even know what this pattern is called. Like, you know, you have like parallel weaves, you have like twist weaves, you have like blue tongue, Heimskrimmelingamingda, like how Anthony Kova always calls it. And you have different types of Damascus steel weaves and patterns, but I don't know what this is called. But this is really cool. Looks like zebra stripes more than tiger stripes. ZKT buttons, everyone. ZKT. Zirconium Mokuti. And that's it, everyone. We've come to the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really had a fun time making this video, the whole process of it from the start to the flaming to the end. And I hope that I also provided enough information to help you decide whether or not these ZKT buttons by the One Stop Fidget Official are buttons for you. Now, I believe that right now they are sold out, but Asire and the team are getting ready for the next drop, so make sure you check out their Facebook group because they post all updates there. Of course, links in the video description down below. Once again, I don't think I have to say that anymore. You guys should know by now. And also make sure you check out their web store. Shout out once again to the One Stop Fidget Official, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing in this slice of my life, and I'll catch you in the next one, everyone. Gaga. Wait, I gotta do this. See how beautiful that is? See how beautiful that is? That's what I'm talking about, everyone. Gaga, boost!